Yeah. All set.
Alright, 7:01, I'll call the meeting to order of, Great partying it already. Town of Arundel Budget Board with, Selectmen. First order of business is gonna be, approval of the agenda.
Second?
Motion made and seconded, all those in favor? All those opposed, none?
Keith, you don't have an extra agenda, do you? There's one right here.
Oh, you got one, cause you can have this one.
I grab it.
Thank you.
There
Make
we
some
go,
more
I
for
got
you.
one. And approval of the minutes, next item on the agenda, February 13th.
Move. Second?
Motion made and seconded to accept the minutes from February 13th. All those in favor? I'll abstain because I wasn't here.
I wasn't here either.
Motion passes.
Thanks for the notes.
All right, so we'll start off with, we're gonna go with the fire department.
Yeah, we had two, really two housekeeping items to wrap up with the fire service. I think the first, in reference to the existing operating budget, is to really determine what the positions are going to be with each respective board relative to the full-time, for the chief's position. As you know, in the spreadsheet that I provided to you, I gave you my recommendation, which was to make it a full-time position. And then I provided some alternatives, and I think we decided at the last meeting that one of the alternatives really wasn't something we'd consider, that would be no chief. Simply because we have to appoint a chief, so that one would be out. So you have full-time, leave it as the position is presently funded and staffed. Go to a 32-hour chief, which would include a benefit package, or go to a 30-hour chief, which would negate the benefits. Those are the options. The position I was taking was the full-time with EMS certification to provide a little more flexibility for us during the day and provide that folks there. So that's really one of the things that we really need to try to firm up a little bit tonight, so we can sort of narrow down or hold down what the actual cost will be for the operating budget of the fire service. And then we need to look at the fire service capital reserve proposals and give you a little bit of some thoughts about that. So that's the first budget. So
Let me ask a question. So the most expensive one is a full-time, right?
Right.
So what does, and maybe John can help out, when we look at the full picture, let's say we go with a full-time, let's say we go with the family health benefit, what does that do to our taxes?
Well, we're looking at, about 44,000 extra dollars?
Yeah, if we crank in the numbers that we've been playing with, I've got the full-time option cranked in, and our mill rate stays within a penny or two of what we're at right now. If we were to crank in the extra for the health plan, give me a second.
Full-time being 40 hours or 32?
40.
40, which wasn't one of the alternatives.
That's correct. It was, I had built it into the proposal.
It was your payroll thing was 78,000.
It was,
the insurance thing.
yeah, it's around 78, yeah, give or take a few bucks for year one.
That would up the mill rate by about 17 cents. To bring it up to 15.67.
And that's assuming we use 300,000 fund balance?
That's assuming 300,000, and that also assumes that we get our anticipated 10 million increase in valuation.
What's the assumed RSU?
The assumed RSU is
3%.
3% over last year.
Jack, you've only had one meeting so far, right?
Yeah, we're meeting Thursday, day after tomorrow. Finance committee will be finalizing the budget to present to the board the following meeting.
So how soon do you think you'll have a final figure on it, Jack?
Thursday, that's our goal.
Thursday?
Final in the context of what the budget board recommends, whether the school board will accept that or not is the following session. I think it'll be every bit of 3%.
I mean, you
Kind of my
think,
sense
you
of
think
things.
it'll be over 3%?
I really can't say at this point, I hope not.
Yeah.
There's the addition of a pre-K program, and and discussion now of changing the high school start time, which has its own financial implications in athletics and in transportation. Not, those are the two heavy hitters if the school, high school and middle school start times change. So, those are uncertain, I just don't know what's gonna happen there.
Jack, would you mind filling the selectmen on the budget board in on the thing you were telling me about a couple of weeks ago, which was the movement, which is afoot to include an extra year of schooling for the local kids, and the impact that could have on our budget, if not this year or next year, but a couple of years down the road, could blow us out of the water.
Yes, the school board has recommended adding a 14th year of education. Been doing it for 13 years, we get pretty good results, top 10% in the state. And pre-K is planned to be added, and the studies are basically say that pre-K education has mixed results in terms of its long-term benefits, and there are studies pro and con that say whether by the end of third grade there's material improvement. But right now, the statewide, the goal is to get to 70% of the 4-year-olds in the state into the pre-K programs. They're about 40 to 50% right now statewide, and we do not have a program in this by the school, or is planning to implement it. It will cost about $700,000 the first year, and $1.1 million the second year and thereafter. Very round numbers, and a little bit of increase in busing costs, not much. Most of that is staff. The state is paying for the first year, but I don't understand the magic that they go through. Because, yeah, they add the million into the EPS formula, but that EPS formula is directed at identifying how much the school must spend, the school district must spend in order to educate kids, minimum. And the formula also cranks out, in turn, the portion that the state will pay and what each town gets. We get very little. We get 4 to 5 million from the state that flows back through. And, while, I'm not certain I understand the numbers fully, you know, the sense of things is that it's coming down to state money. Well, guess where that state money comes from? Right here, yeah. And most of the EPS formula, of course, shifts most of it north into northern communities. So the great bulk of that money comes from Cumberland and York County. I personally am uncertain as to the benefits of spending this money. That is, you know, whether it's whatever falls out the bottom and comes into the school district after the formulas are cranked through, or whether the state will continue funding in future years. They only have so much money and it gets divvied up to the state. So, my concern is that there won't be any real measurable improvement in kids' education for whatever dollar is spent. But measurable really by the end of third grade. So that's the concern that I have. The school board members, all but one, voted almost unanimously to go ahead with the program. And it's coming. It will also result in the third grade moving from KES over to C road in all likelihood. That's not finalized, and then bring in the 100 or so pre-K kids in the KES. So that's a long-winded statement of what it's all about.
Is this a national phenomenon that the education group thinks that they need to do?
Well, Head Start has spent hundreds of billions of dollars, tens of billions, a lot of money. And all since 1968, I believe. And the longitudinal studies can't show any real benefit for all that money. Now, there are individual studies, small ones, that have been done around the nation. 7 states in the nation have no program, including our next door neighbor, New Hampshire, and they get higher educational results than Maine does. And they don't have a pre-K program at all. There's 7 states totally don't. Many of the states have targeted programs where they based on economic criteria. X times the poverty level. They target the kids that are likely to need it most. This program here in this community will be everybody's eligible. And the name of equity, whether kids need it or not. Parents, if I can make a personal statement, parents who have kids at that age and are gonna get rid of a $500 a month or so
Daycare.
a daycare bill are delighted.
They're ecstatic about it.
There is, yeah. So that's what's coming. The impact on, you know, as it flows through to us, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I guess I just question where it ends. You know, what are we gonna start taking them from out of the crib and educating them at the local level?
Well, I asked Jack to fill us in because I don't know if there's anything that we can do as a group, but I think it might be time to start thinking about trying to throw a wrench in the works on some of this stuff before we go broke. You know, trying to keep the RSU afloat.
In May, there's the annual RSU budget meeting, where each of the 11 or 12 line items that comprise the $40 million budget will be voted on. frankly, I hope I'm wrong, that in fact, we get really good teachers and kids do get materially better education. You know, I'd be delighted to stand up and say, I messed up, if that were the case, but we won't know for several years. And that means you've got to measure very carefully along the way to know what the results are. So, I'll get off my soapbox.
Back in the day when I was a puppy, my kids all went to Head Start, and we saw a significant improvement when they went into first, second, third grade, just in our family. I don't know about
Yeah.
anybody else.
Head
Because
Start
there was no
was
kindergarten.
directed though primarily at inner city kids, that's where the money was spent. And I think that's where the studies were developed to measure progress or not. Oh, yeah, individual kids at that level. In fact, you know, there are, in my estimate, maybe 20 to 30% of the kids in our school district can really benefit from this. But do
The
the
problem
rest.
is, at that age, you really don't know, right?
No,
I
you
mean,
know.
my wife is a special ed teacher, and I hear the stories, you know, and it's ridiculous, and, you know, it's sad, but at that age, you don't know if a kid really needs special needs, right? You won't know that till he gets into the,
No.
you know, second, third grade.
Yeah, there's an evaluation of each child going into the start of the program.
But it's open to everybody, you know, that
But
type of
it's open
program
to
is open
everybody.
to everybody.
And, you know, will parents put kids in there for to benefit their own economic situation, or because the child needs help? You know, at any rate, that's.
Thanks for that, Jack.
But getting back to fire.
I'll shut up now.
Burn down the Irish circle.
Yeah.
Do we need 2 full-time people there each and every day?
I would say we're leading to that. If I had to actually just tell you today, I would say no, not 2 full-time people. But I think we need an enhancement. I agree that the chief's position should be enhanced a little bit, some more hours, and that the ability of the chief to be more user-friendly, for lack of a better term, for emergency medical services, I think is needed. And that's always been my position, so.
So then I guess it boils down to, do we decide, you know, a full-time or an increased hour with EMS certification? Is basically what you're suggesting.
Yeah.
Can I throw in a couple of 2 cents here?
Have at it.
Go right ahead.
I don't totally disagree with Keith. When he originally proposed this, it came when he sent the budget over to me. And I believe his proposal, if I remember from the last meeting, was a full-time chief with the full-time guy, which would give us 2 people. Okay, well, we have 2 people now. He wanted more time to be able to work with the chief. Well, since 80% of our calls are EMS, the chief is gonna spend more time running calls than not. And I think he's correct that at some point in time, the chief should be some type of medical license. The thing I know is around is there's 3 other towns. Unfortunately, Arundel's kind of unique because of the population, so they're all bigger. They all have full-time chiefs, but they don't have just one other person. They have at least 2 other people, so the chief is not part of that to make sure the ambulance runs. So and for example, I will start with Lyman and Dayton, okay? They have a full-time chief. They also run one person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is a full-time position. They also run a per diem for 12 hours. So they man the ambulance. But because they man 2 ambulances, or have 2 ambulances, the chief is available with his license to man a second if there's somebody else around, okay? Buxton is the same way. They're bigger. They have 2 full-time people. They also incorporate students. But the chief, there again, licensed, but does not run that many calls because there's already two people to run the call. He's a backup guy. And Waterborough's pretty much the same way, except for their deputy chief is also a paramedic, which is full-time. So the question I don't know, or the answer I don't know, is why did they start out with what Keith is proposing and have a working chief with one other person, and it didn't work? Or, I don't know. So, I don't totally disagree, like I said, I don't totally disagree with Keith that it's probably gonna be the point where Arundel's gonna have to make a decision. What my suggestion would be is that status quo for this time. Give us a chance to look at all the options out there, come back to you next year and come up with a reason and find out, you know, why these people are running the extra person. Why did they run a chief and one other person as a working chief? Did it work? Did it not work? You're getting pretty good coverage now, or you're getting good coverage now. You're getting the paramedic that he wants. Should we hire a full-time chief and keep Randall and then put somebody on 8 hours during the day for the third person? I mean, I don't know. Do you offer Randall, who is already full-time, the chief's position, keep the 12-hour per diem and have another per diem come in for 8 hours to help cover the ambulance? I think there's a lot of options that we could look at that would be a benefit to the town of Arundel, but it needs to take time to be looked at. There's just a lot of options out there. I think Keith's right. I think we need to head in that direction. I just don't think we're quite ready to do that, or I don't feel we are anyways. I think we really need to just sit back, because the way I look at it, or my responsibility as the chief to this town, is that we need to plan for down the road. This is not a one-year fix. This is something we gotta look at how we're gonna build on this and try to do it financially. I understand Keith also said, if I remember at the last meeting, that the ability to be able to make contact with the chief is limited because of the number of hours I work. Well, you know, I got to thinking about that too, you know, and I've always kind of worked like 2.5 days because I spread my time out. But there's no reason why he and I couldn't sit down and he could say, look, you know what, chief, I'd like to have you in here 4 days a week, 6 hours a day. There's 24 hours. That gives me the contact a lot more that he could contact with me. And I mean, I think there's a bunch of options we can do. But that would be my suggestion anyways, is that give us some time to look at it and come back with some different options for you to look at. I mean, the service you got now is good. I don't think you're gonna lose anything by waiting a little bit, at least 1 year, maybe 2. But that's obviously, it's up to you. I don't think you're gonna be hosing over the taxpayers in Arundel if you don't do anything in this year. But I think you really, I agree with Pete, we really need to be steering in that direction very soon.
Keith, can you clarify, did you alter the per diem program at all with this position?
I did not at this point.
So the chief's position will be a third person anyway?
Correct. But, yeah, I haven't altered anything. I was still uncertain as to what direction you folks really wanted to go in. If you chose one of them, then we maybe I'll have to massage a little bit more of the other department, of the budgets, but at this point, I did not do that.
I mean, I will argue the fact that we are not ready for a full-time chief. I don't think this town warrants a full-time chief. But I think it would be a bonus to us if we had a part-time chief that held an EMS license. Now we have a third person there that has an EMS license that could handle a second call, or for whatever reason there's a call out, that chief could work that 12-hour shift and staff the ambulance with a per diem personnel. That would almost be a bonus to that position if it held an EMS license now.
So basically, you're agreeing with what Keith is proposing?
I don't think we need to go full-time yet. I would.
No, I don't think Keith's proposal was for.
Well, it was initially.
proposals, yeah.
It was initially, John, yes.
My observation would be that with 80% of the calls, EMS calls, that EMS capability, ideally the highest level, is mandatory for a chief and prerequisite, if you will. And that we've been talking about this for 2 years now, maybe. We've had plenty of time to gather data. don't we know the answers to all those questions already? And my view is that an EMS chief is necessary as soon as possible. And as to whether it's part-time or 30 or 32 hours or full-time, I think that's more a function of the individual you might find as to what the needs are. And that cost differential is relatively small. But if another EMS person, on the occasions where you have more than one call going on, if that saves a life, that's fine by me.
The difficulty is gonna be finding somebody who's willing to work part-time and has the credentials you're talking about.
I don't think it's gonna be that difficult.
Oh, really? Okay.
I really don't.
That's what I was
How
thought
many
the
hours are you
problem.
thinking, Jason?
I would say no more than 30 hours a week. And the beauty that I think we're gonna run into is you're gonna get a full-time fire person that's working a full-time position somewhere, that holds a paramedic license, that's been doing this for a long time.
Supposed to be a second job?
Right.
It's like most of our paramedics and EMS people now, it's their second job.
That's why I think we might wanna keep
This
this.
position would be different than just these guys doing the day.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think we might wanna keep this part-time for this first year. Let's see if that
Yeah.
is a good fit. And to Chief's point, we might find next year, you know what, I mean, Reynolds would make a perfect chief. Why don't we turn Reynolds' position into the chief's position, and whether or not we adapt to a third person on the per diem side, or.
Mhm.
And the other thing that we need to throw into this is if we're gonna use the hired chief as a third person to run backup calls and stuff, do we put on another rescue? Cause all he's gonna do is go there, put a Band-Aid on and wait for mutual aid to come in anyways.
I'm looking at it more as if it's a bonus to us, having that third position there with an EMS license. You can first respond with the engine, do BLS procedures with.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, he's gonna be there to do BLS procedures, and the next town's gonna come and do the transport, so.
At least in a cardiac arrest, we've got
And-
someone there that's.
And I agree 100%.
Time's of the essence when it comes to
Right.
that.
Yeah.
You know, but the other thing that we have to keep in the back of our minds is the per diem program is a great program. We're overworking the per diem program. Everybody's doing per diem now, and the pool is this big, and it should be this big. We're having a very hard time filling shifts. You know, how many nights did you work alone?
And back to my point, if we have a chief with an EMS license and that shift is absolutely not filled.
And that would be good, we could move our shifts around so we could keep those shifts filled. I don't know how many extra shifts that I've worked this past year because we couldn't fill anybody. So, there is benefits to it, but there's also some downsides to it.
How many hours before full-time? 30, 32?
32.
32.
Yeah, once you get to 32, then we're required to offer the benefit package.
Okay, so you're looking for, say, someone 30 hours.
Well, that's one of the alternatives, yeah, 30 hours, and that would keep you below the benefit package. And then that, if you go that route, then we need to ensure that that person is EMS certified.
Yeah.
In that regard, if you can find somebody who can fill that 30-hour requirement and is EMS certified, they may already have insurance with whoever they're working for full-time. So, that's a possibility too. And in going out and searching for somebody, I don't think you wanna set the parameters too tight, but, and draw as large a crowd as possible, and then narrow it down based on their individual
Well, I mean, I
qualifications.
think the qualifications are pretty black and white. I mean, you gotta have, there's certain things that you have to have, and you have to have your EMS certification, so. And I think whether it's this, or to what the chief taught, I wanna see somebody there. I think it's best to see somebody there every day, not 2 days a week. Whether it's, 4 hours a day or whatever, I think that's best for the department, I think that's best for you know, things that, you know, the communications between you, the communication between the staff there, you know, the per diem folks and what have you. It just, I think it's, one way or another, I think that needs to happen.
That's a case of Keith, whoever that person is, sitting down and looking at what is needed, when it's needed,
Yeah.
when they should be there.
Correct.
I move that we, get ahead of the curve, go with a full-time 40-hour chief with, EMS licensing. All the other licensing and requirements to be full-time and do calls.
I'll second Phil's motion.
Okay. We have a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion?
The o-
Yeah,
I mean, I wanna stay budget conscious, I think that's our first and utmost importance here, is to keep in line with the budget, and if we're gonna talk future, let's look at these two capital reserve accounts right in front of us. I'm not exactly sure I know how to read them. I see a lot of red in parentheses, I don't know what that means.
We'll go over it.
yeah, I'd like to see us start with 30 hours and see how that works. And then come back in another year, and if we find that that's not working, then we have the ability to move it up to full-time. But
I would like to suggest something in between the two, that, the motion be amended to include, the chief up to and including 40 hours a week with the EMS certification, so that we have the opportunity to look at a range of people somewhat less qualified, if you will, but a wider range of people. I think we're narrowing the scope.
Well, that's gonna be difficult if you wanna post for the job, cause what do you put out for a position? You put out either a full-time position or a part-time position?
Well, a range of 30 to 32.
But we'd have to budget for 40.
we have, yeah, we have to budget the
That's
full-time for
the
40
number is
anyway.
what's important right now.
That's true,
Yeah.
that's true.
And, you know, I mean, you know, Phil's comment is I'd like to be ahead of the curve, you know, that's, you know, we should be thinking that way. But by the same token, I almost have to agree with Jason, I'm not so sure that I think if we step into this a little bit right now, when it comes next year, and we decide, let's say we decide we wanna make it a full-time, it's not that much of a leap, because we're probably gonna have, you know, a new town hall that's coming up, and, so, I mean, those are things that we need to talk about, but.
And I agree with the chief and Jason. We need to ease into this, because what's gonna happen at town meeting when they say, well, we want an extra $140,000 for the fire department this year? Town people are gonna vote that down, that's a big increase. I'm afraid that we'll probably lose everything that we wanna do because we jumped into it too deep. I think we need to ease into it.
All right, well, we got a motion that's been made by Phil, seconded by John. Let's go ahead and vote on that. All in favor of the motion as it stands? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All those that oppose? 2, 4, 5.
So I make a motion,
Motion fails.
I make a motion that we go into a part-time chief with EMS certification.
Not to exceed,
How many hours?
31.9 hours or something.
Yep, part-time, keep it under 32.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded for a less than 32-hour a week position, full-time chief. With
EMS.
EMS?
Yeah.
With EMS.
There are 3 levels of EMS qualification.
There are.
What are we asking
I mean, I would say at the very minimum, advanced. That's middle of the
for?
road.
Okay.
Um,
EMS 2,
I'm sorry?
EMS 2,
No, advanced EMT is what they,
advanced EMT.
I wouldn't, I don't think you'd wanna go with the basic level. I don't think we would gain what we wanna gain.
I just wanted to be sure that we were on the same page.
Motion made and seconded.
I think that would open the pool a little bit too, and not narrow it strictly to paramedic.
Okay.
Again, so we got a motion made by Mr. Dubois, seconded for 30, less than 32 an hour. Yeah, 32, less than 32 hour per week. Oh my God. Chief position with EMS. All those in
I
favor?
just want more discussion, please.
Oh, go ahead.
Just real rough numbers, Keith, what would that do? I mean, that would decrease retirement, health insurance.
Right, we'd be looking at, you'd be looking at an increase of $1,681 from the previous year. So we'd be at 257, 728 in 2018 budget. If you go with 30-hour chief, we'd be at 259, 409. So an increase of 1681. Because what I did is I decreased the hourly rate. Right now, the chief is at the highest, he's at $29.05 an hour, which puts him at the highest bracket, you know, Chief Mullen at this point.
Yeah.
And my thought was is that we'd be around the $26 an hour rate for a chief at 30 hours. That's why there's a difference.
So basically, we're looking at the numbers in the far right column.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So those in favor of the motion that's been made and seconded? 2, 4, 6, 7. All those opposed? 1. Motion passes.
Okay. The next thing we have would be the capital, capital account. I mean, what you want to do on that sheet is go to this, to the end that says fire department. And what we're talking about here would be, we're not talking as many red lines down there, Jason, as we would with the
Way up 28.
public works. But when you get out to, yeah, when you get out to 2029 or 2028, you start to factor off. But what we did here was to anticipate in 2021 the purchase of the next rescue pumper for the town. Right now, if you lease purchased it over a 7-year period, you'd be at $85,000 a year for the next 77 years to pay for it. We've discovered at this point that the utility safety TIF is going to at least give us $30,000 of income, $35,000, excuse me, of income. So, and it may be more than that. Looking at the captured value today, it could be closer to $45,000 to $50,000.
So the reason we don't show that on 1920 is because of the brush truck payments. The TIF money goes.
I haven't shown it there because right now we've got about $4,900 in there, and in 2019 we are going to get another influx, but I'm not sure exactly what that's going to be yet. So yeah, that's why it's not there.
Okay.
But we wouldn't be able to use it for the rescue pumper though, would we?
Yes. We can use it for the attack pumper.
Yeah.
We can't use it when we get out to 2028 when we're looking for the rescue pumper. Right, the attack pumper, the next truck that we're replacing, we can use the money for.
So 301,
301 would be the next truck, yeah.
so we can use it for that one?
Correct. And I'm anticipating that in 2021 we'll buy that truck. If we get the approvals from the townspeople, we'll have to put together, like we did with the excavator. But our thought would be to to work towards that goal come 2021. Now, my fire experts are telling me that we may have to address it earlier than that, simply because of the pump. Right now it's passed, but because of the age of the unit, the availability of parts to keep the pump operating up to NFPA standards may prohibit us from really fixing it. But right now, it's working. So, my thought is to go to 2021 and replace that truck. At that time, we'd also buy the excavation tools that have to be added, that are being required or requested of, which we got a budget of about $40,500 for that, so. And then John factored out $7,000 a year for the next several years to buy SCBA equipment, which we anticipated at about $102,000 sometime in, and that may or may not have to be purchased. We don't know that at this point. So really, we're really focusing on the standby generator in 2020 for 10.4, the extrication tools in 2021 for $40,500, and then the beginning of paying for a new attack pumper in 2021.
We would have funds available if something happens and we had to pull that pumper a year ahead, right?
I think
It looks like
I
it
think
does.
we can do it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's funding there, and I think we're gonna find that our funding from the TIF is gonna be more than we anticipated at $35,000. I think it may be more. And I'll know more after this year and what we have going in there. I mean, they've done a great job, but we're not gonna have to buy the trailer. The trailer's already been purchased, and we had to pay, I think, like $450 for it. So we'll have the trailer. We've got the UTV, even though it's used, it's functional at this point. The chief did mention to me that one of the things that we'll have to start looking at, and we didn't build it in yet, but when we get out to a few more years, even though it's 2 or 3 years old, that ambulance is gonna have to be replaced. But it's a 10-year rotation on those, so next year we'll try to build that into this, so we got an idea of what we're gonna be in terms of replacing that at some point in the future.
Having a long-term plan like this is very helpful, very.
Absolutely.
So for this year, we're looking to put 40 grand in the reserve account, is that the proposal?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we'll go from 25 to 40.
Yeah.
So the chief had put together, I believe this is coming from, yeah. So on replacing engine 301, it says if they were able to make repairs, it would have to be retrofitted to parts that are now available and would be extremely costly.
Right.
What's that extremely costly? What are we talking?
Probably in excess, from what I've seen, you know, the new pumps are $35,000 to $40,000, and then the new piping and everything, it wouldn't be unrealistic to think you could be in that for 75 to 100K.
The problem with the pump that's in the truck now, and the newer style pumps, the newer style pumps are a lot smaller, so it would have to be retrofitted to the old truck. The last time that we had pump problems with it, the housing of the pump was damaged, and we couldn't buy a new housing for it. There isn't one left in the world, so they epoxied it back together. And the next time that pump has a big problem like that, it can't be fixed again. So it would then either have to be retrofitted with a different type pump, and then repiped all in, and like he said, you're looking, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 to do that, so.
There's no,
A truck of that age,
there's no used parts like that, trucks of
Nope.
that, I mean?
no.
I think if it came down, we'd start scrambling pretty hard to try to find it. But, I mean, with his connections and the chief's connections, and I'm a scrounger from way back, so I would start doing that as well. So if we have to, we'll try to do what we gotta do. I mean, I don't wanna be a bearer of bad news, but I will be if I have to.
Are we still using 303 for the first unit out to let 301 sit still as long as, for as much as possible?
303 is going out on all motor vehicle accidents. Typically on a structure fire, 301 still goes. But now with the new brush truck that we have, we're using that on like water problems, lines down, trees down and stuff. So we've eliminated a lot of calls off of 301.
Thank you.
And I think that, what the chief has proposed as we get out to 2028 is the elimination of one unit within the large trucks that we have. So when we get out there, we'll be replacing 303 and 312 with just one truck. There will be a pumper tanker when we get out there, so,
Well, I think, before we get to that point, I mean, I think we ought to.
oh, there'll be further discussions.
Yeah, and we need
Probably
to
we
certainly
won't be making
up that capital.
Yeah.
We got $40,000 laid out all the way over, and I think, we're gonna have to up that amount at some point.
Yeah.
We did it this year, which is good,
Is there any inflation factors?
Yes, I factored in 4% inflation in that number for per year for that truck
Okay,
to purchase it in 2021. I think they're about 425 to 450 right now, so.
and,
I
and so
did not
you've got a 4% inflation built in throughout?
Yeah,
I did not factor any inflation into that line for the SCBA equipment jack.
Okay.
all right.
I think the good thing about this projection like this is you review it every year, so you can make the changes as necessary. I mean, you can move things around, you might have to change the order, but, I mean, that's something that can be presented to the board every year, so them to
Yeah,
look
and
at.
this is perfect because it has the public works stuff, and we can all look at
Right.
it in one sheet, so, I mean.
right,
this is-
John did a
this is
great
good
job
for
putting
us.
that together for us.
Yeah.
Thanks. There's no inflation factored into any of that public works spreadsheet either, Dan. This was just a quickie, so we
Yeah,
had
no.
something to work with tonight.
We also tried to provide you with dates of purchases and stuff, so you know the age of the equipment and stuff, so you know what you were looking at.
Do we have a line item to vote on here?
It, 2301 would be a capital reserve line, and you could vote to, place the 40,000 in it.
Here, I'll
But
make
I would prefer that you delay until your final vote, and the reason why is that I'd like to get a better handle on the utility safety TIF and the captured money that we may have there. Jason brings up a good point, in our analysis, we didn't show it on 2019. So the fact is, we may be able to get away with a little bit less than 40 at this point, until we get a better handle on that captured value. So I just soon delay the final vote on that until,
And when will we know that?
I will have that for you at your next meeting.
Is it gonna be a substantial difference, do you think?
Well,
I mean, it's not gonna make any sense for $3,000 or $5,000 out here.
No,
to the vote.
yeah, the captured value could be as high as, like I said, 45 to 50. So I've got 35 in there now for the TIF when we started, so we
But that's
could.
not until 2021.
Right, so what I'm saying is that we may have a little bit more money in that TIF, so we could drop that amount that we need from the taxpayer for the upcoming year.
But drop it by, I mean, how much will we drop it by?
10,000 maybe?
So do we have items that we know we can spend that TIF money on?
No, not at this point. We bought the trailer. Our next large purchase will be the extrication tools, but we have the money for that already, if we factor that in, so.
But my point is, if we don't have something specific that we know we can spend that TIF money on, does it make any sense to delay the vote now when,
No,
we don't know if we can spend the TIF money, even if we've got another $20,000, if we don't know that we've got something that we can spend it on. You know, perhaps we ought to just get it voted on tonight and go with it.
The extrication
Gonna get
rules.
eaten up sooner or later.
Yeah, and the extrication rules, you can't use the TIF money for that anyway.
And it just rolls forward to the next year.
No, if it stays in the capital reserve account, it stays there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I guess you can vote on it.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll make a motion that, you know, we bump the capital reserve up to $40,000. 2301 Fire Department Capital Reserve.
I'll second it.
Motion made, seconded, to increase 2301 capital reserve, fire, for the fire department, up to 40,000. Any further discussion maybe? All those in favor? None that oppose? It passes, 40,000.
And in your analysis, you had 40,000 in there already, right?
No, I just cranked it in with the 40,000 and the offsetting, still looking at an offsetting 78,000 that Keith is gonna talk to us about.
Yeah, we just saved a ton of money in the fire department budget by,
And the more we change these numbers tonight, the less faith I've got in them, because I have an hour or two to look them over.
That's okay.
Right now, I'm looking at an increase of 10 cents in the mill rate.
Well, you had something in there for capital reserve, did you, John? I mean,
Yes,
25?
25,000.
And that's 300,000 from,
That's just you.
With the 300,000. And the 10 million increase in value. And assuming Jack doesn't screw us to the wall, the school budget.
Okay.
We'll push on that 32
Move on to
Police, right?
police and patrol services.
I don't have it on my budget, I'm on my budget.
yeah. I provided to you the copies from the York County Sheriff's Office relative, they should look like this, it should have been in your packet. Deputy 70 and Deputy Woodcock's.
When did
These
you
come
When
from
did you
them.
provide that? Must have been earlier, right?
I put it in, when I scanned and sent you the packet, it was in the packet.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Yeah, okay. I'll share this.
Um, I guess the good news is that last year we had budgeted $184,806 for police patrol services. This year, based on the information he gave us, we're gonna be at $180,624. So $4,182 less than the previous year. If you remember last year, we were sort of estimating, we didn't know really specifically what deputy we were gonna get, so we were a little high. Now that we have these vetted deputies here, we can sort of narrow that cost down, so. That's why we're at 180,624.
And so, Sheriff Savigny, his numbers are flat for the year, essentially. And the new fellow, Christopher Woodcock,
Yeah.
is a bit higher,
Correct,
with higher medical costs
correct,
than the other.
correct.
Okay.
Plus he's got, what is HRA liability? So we don't have that on Greg's breakdown.
what are you looking at, Tom?
And on
Is it
Woodcock's,
under-
it
is it under
says,
fringe or is it under?
under fringe benefit, it says HRA liability, $3,500. And it's not on the other deputies' breakdown. And I
I
couldn't
think
figure out what
that's
that
a-
was.
I'm not sure if it's a health reimbursement account.
Well, he's got medical insurance.
Yeah,
I mean, I think this is his health reimbursement, right,
Right.
for Greg, he's got 3,600.
I'll have to double check what the HRA liabilities
I
for.
never, I couldn't figure that out.
I didn't catch it, I looked at the bottom numbers and just saw that we were having a savings, so I didn't give it much more thought at that point. But I'll look into the HRA liability.
Oh, I didn't, all right, yeah, I didn't see that out, I didn't think I'll put it in.
I think it may be because of the healthcare option.
Very average people.
So that total
Is
is
it-
180,000,
Um,
623.
Point,
186.24.
186.
Yeah, I did it 186.4, I rounded it up.
Now, is there a vehicle, a full vehicle or a lease?
They're all covered,
They're
they're all paid for.
Are they driving 3-year-old cars?
They don't have 3-year-old cars.
2-year-old.
No, I think they're, well, both 1-year-olds now. We had one that was totaled, so that got replaced.
Okay.
That was when Deputy 70 had an accident in 111, responding to an emergency call, totaling one of our
Oh,
cars.
that just happened recently.
Last year, yes, sir? Last year, yeah.
and that was the other one that we talked about.
That was the first Interceptor that we had purchased, yeah.
This is the oldest one.
Yeah,
We find it right.
so we have what, 2017?
I would say that one's a 17, the other one's probably an 18. They look identical though, if you see them, they look the same.
And the blue lights are on.
You don't care if it's 17 or 18.
Hey, officer, nice car you got there.
Yeah, what is that? Is that a 17 or an 18? Yeah.
Registration plates and
I assume he wasn't hurt in that.
Sounds like you've been through that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make a motion that we tentatively approve 2701, police patrol services for $180,624.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded for the 180, I'm sorry, what was the,
$180,624.
180,624. Any further discussion made, made? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Is everybody unanimous? The motion passes.
Shapes of woman.
Now that an 8-cent increase in the mill rate.
But now,
With that, just for the HRA, it looks like it's a health reimbursement arrangement. So it's not health insurance, but it's reimbursement for out-of-pocket medical expenses.
Must be something that he had set up to take some money out of his.
Yeah, because it looks like possibly 70 had,
well, they got his pay, but
No.
I mean, it's a benefit.
Right.
but it's entirely possible that 70 has,
I think
maybe gets,
He doesn't get
I
insurance.
guess he gets his
he probably
insurance
gets
from
it
his
through his
wife.
wife, so that's why there's that difference. So. Okay. We got that done. Move on to 3101, new family health benefit coverage.
Yes, I provided to you a memo that I placed in your packet to just give you an overview as to the request that I was making for an 80-20 split and be able to begin the process of providing health benefits for family members of employees. In the memo, I sort of broke down as to what the cost associated would be. And I wanted to make sure that you understood that based on the way that we're budgeting it, And the way our insurance is, the insurance would not kick in until January of 2019, so it would be 6 months into the fiscal year before folks could actually sign up for the family coverage, and that's why it's at 77,867, a request for 6 months. And I wanted you to know that if in fact you did do it, the following year you'd be at $155,734, and that would be built into each budget reflective after this upcoming year, so you decide to do it. The other thing I did is I looked at the benefits that our colleagues or our neighboring communities are providing to their employees. I didn't look at the school. I'm sure that our education folks have probably got a fairly good benefit package that's paid for through a process, I'm not sure.
Very close to this, they're a contract. It's typically about 18%, 82%, so not that, that's a goal, the school district has the goal of getting.
Well, when I did my review, I saw that Kennebunk was the high, and obviously Lyman doesn't provide it similar to us right now. But the communities around us, Alfred, Biddeford, Saco, Old Orchard Beach, Sanford, and Wells, with the exception of Alfred, are all around 80%. So, and for us, I think those are the communities that we're sort of competing with when it comes to employees. And as a result of that, I don't want to be in a position, I don't think the town wants to be in a position that that we're, just want us to be as competitive as we possibly can be. And I think by providing these benefits that our neighbors are providing, at least gives us an opportunity to say that, you know, we may not be the highest on the hourly rate, but you're still gonna get a good benefit here, and that you're gonna be able to take care of your family and so forth. So that's my proposal. It's all about the dollars. As John has said, you know, we're about 70, almost 78,000 for this fiscal year, if you so decide to do it.
There's 78K this year, and that's in 17, 18, or 18, 19?
The 18, 19.
18, 19.
And then
How much?
19, 20, you're looking at least 155, almost 156,000 total.
Incremental.
Right, well, it'd be 78, and then if it was a full year, it'd be 156,000.
Yeah. That's the incremental cost.
So you base it on present premiums that you know about,
Correct.
which will no doubt
Increases.
be increased.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. We did build in, because in January, we don't know what that premium is, so we already built in an escalator to start in January. So that's built in, so at 78,000, we're hoping that, I think we figured it at 6 to 8%, somewhere in that neighborhood, so.
We have any competing bids together? I mean, I don't have a good handle on what medical insurance costs, but it seems like these numbers are out of sight. You know, have we called anybody to say, hey, give us a competitive bid on health insurance for our employees, or?
The thing is, there's very little competition, because you've had most of the insurance companies pull out of state.
We can certainly,
had two competing with each other.
right, we certainly can look at that and see what we can, see if there's any other better programs out there. I think what you're gonna find is you can sort of regulate it, right, and you can deal with it by higher deductibles and or insuring some of your own deductibles yourself, and putting aside some sort of plan to help our employees with that deductible. So we can sort of massage that amount, and we can look at that a little bit further. But what I did here was I just took the strict nuts and bolts of what we have and what it would be if we offered it, and this is what it would be.
This is through Maine.
Maine Municipal Association.
Municipal
Yep.
They've got a bunch of different plans
They do.
listed on their website. Do you have any idea, are we in like the zero deductible plan?
No,
or
we're in a,
$5,000
we're in the POS
deductible?
plan, we're in the middle tier,
Are we-
yeah. So I think, I'm trying to remember, I think our deductibles are 2,500 and 5,000, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Pretty normal.
Nowadays, I know some people that got 10,000 or more, so it
Well,
can
I mean,
become.
what companies are offering, you know, that stuff. Right. How many employees was that coming up?
Well, I've got a sheet here. Let's see if I know what I did with the damn
I
thing.
think we finally have to come down and do offer the coverage before we lose any more people that came up and came up for it. We train them and then they go over there.
Two,
Aaron?
Yeah, because the minute an opening comes over there, where they can get, they not only get more pay, but they also get better benefits, so.
five.
Certainly can't blame anybody for doing
No, no, but if we can offer a competitive.
About 10 employees. And when I did this number, 78 was based on the fire chief being full-time and benefits, so I can reduce that to a certain extent too, so. 78's really on the high side for the first year.
And then we pay for individual coverage now, right?
We do.
100%.
We pay 100% for our employee.
Right.
This would be an 80-20 split for a spouse.
The family.
Or, yes.
Yeah. And there are different plans, I mean, you've got employee, you might have an employee and a child, or you might have, a couple, employee and a spouse.
Employee plus one, employee plus
Yeah,
family.
yeah,
Would this then be 80-20 across the board?
It would be 80-20 for the additional
Family.
family
Yeah.
coverage.
Just for
coverage,
family.
Right.
yeah.
My proposal includes that that we continue to honor the 100% for the employee.
So,
Well, we're swimming against the stream here, you know. Everybody else is trying to reduce.
I know, the
Hanover's
standard,
out there striking right now for God's
I know. I know the standard is a little different,
Yeah.
and I wish I could report that the municipal standard is different, but it doesn't appear to be hitting that sector yet. But I know that when I was in New Hampshire, we were looking hard at doing self-insurance pools. We were trying to regionalize and get municipalities to come together, sort of like educational groups do now, to try to keep that cost down. And it just never flew.
My feeling is this is long overdue. That, we've been behind the curve for a lot of years here. And it's time to do it. Past time.
is there an opportunity to fund some of this through some fund balance?
Well, that brings up another question. I mean, I did an analysis on the fund balance today, and I gave you a spreadsheet. And the numbers I show on the bottom were numbers that were provided through MMA, and these are their standards. But I gotta tell you, they're nowhere near that I would recommend in terms of keeping as a fund balance. If you look at my sheet, down the bottom, they're saying there should be at least 8%. The minimum would be 10% of your total operating budget of the town, or a monthly amount. So I broke that down for 16, 17, and what the proposed high would be for the 18, would only get us keeping at the very high about 870,000 in our fund balance. I went to our treasurer today, I went to Lisa, and we talked about our cash flow, because, and she was able to provide me a sheet indicating what our cash flow was, you know, on a yearly, for the year. And When we get into October, just before the next issuance of funding, we're down into the $399,000 to $400,000 of capital that we have to operate on. So until we get that next influx, we get down. So when I look here and they want us to keep 870, I'm saying that's not realistic for for our flow. So it would be my recommendation that if you continue with the practice that you've had over the last several years, would be for the upcoming year to go ahead and take another 300,000 as you've done in the past. That would leave us around 2.2 to 2.3 million in there, which would give us the cash that we need necessary to continue to pay our bills as we go through the year. So that's how I look at it.
If we bump that up to, let's say, 350 to help fund some of this, we, you know.
But the answer's gonna be, once you do it, it's an ongoing cost.
Oh, I know
You
that.
know, then you're gonna have to do it every year to try to offset it. And that, we're stuck with it. Once we do it, we're done, and of course, you're not gonna be able to take it back.
Right.
You know?
And
And the real scary thing about it is the way medical costs have
Right.
gone out of sight over the last 10 years. You know, it's, we're looking at 158,000 a year now. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't begrudge anybody medical insurance, but it's a scary thing to deal with, knowing that you could be looking at 10 to 15% increase year after year after year. It just seems there's no end to it.
And really, the way I'm proposing it, unless you felt strong against it, would be a special warrant article. So we would have it in front of the people, so the people actually get the final say as to whether or not they want us to do it. For me, I felt that was the only fair way to do it, because it is a substantial change in how the town is doing business at this point. And I think they need to weigh in, and it would just mean that I would have to have all my ducks in a row at the town meeting.
Well, but you're gonna look for some recommendation from these two boards.
Absolutely, I need your
Yeah,
recommendations.
right.
If you're not giving them to me, it's not going
That's
forward.
And these numbers you got from the surrounding communities, do they represent, they pay the individual and then 80-15, or is it 85-15 or 80-20 for the,
I'd have to look into that.
because I know that's what the school does, right?
The school pays so if you got coverage, you're paying 20% of whatever overall coverage is.
Right, whatever it is.
Okay.
That sounds a lot more, that sounds a lot more
Still have their
reasonable.
own deductibles.
Right, but, you know, I don't, my spouse has got insurance through the school, so I know, but,
Sure.
you know,
But I mean, that's another option, right? The
Right.
option
Right.
is, you could say, hey, listen, if we wanna offer your spouse,
You're gonna have to pay.
you're gonna have to
80%.
pay yours, it can't be 100% anymore, now it's back, I mean, most companies are doing that anyways, I mean, I know I've gone through it, my insurance has gone through the freaking roof.
I'd have to look at the numbers and see if they change a lot
Right.
at that particular point. And I'd have to poll our present employees to see who would take them under those circumstances, because some may not take it as
Right.
a result of it. So it may change a little bit.
It would be interesting to find out what's available in the way of some self-insurance as well. I know just before I retired, we went from a conventional health insurance plan to, I think the company self-insured for something like $5,000 per employee, which brought the overall cost down quite a bit. I'm sure there's got to be insurance brokers floating around who could give us some kind of a proposal. You know,
The last time I looked at it, what I did was, we were going through New Hampshire Municipal Association, we were getting, what we did is we increased our deductible, so that lowered the premiums. And what I did is I took, say the deductible was $2,500, and we were going to a $10,000 deductible, we took a pool of money that the town voted on and put it into a account to pay for anything that was over $2,500 in deductible cost to the employee. And then they dipped into that amount. And so we monitored that way. What it did is it allowed us to drop our premium cost, and then hopefully our employees stayed healthy and they didn't use it, and then that money was set aside when we needed it. So that was a good way of trying to keep the cost down. So there's a lot of ways that we can look at it. try to skin his cat.
Keith, would it cause you a lot of work to run numbers on like 75, 25, 80, 20? Like break it down a maybe in the next closest 5 to 10% increment?
I could do that.
I think if you're gonna do that, it's gotta be done with some associated data as to what the deductible level is, you know, so that you're comparing apples and apples.
The other thing that, you know, I think would key is poll the employees and say, listen, you know, obviously if we were to offer you, you know, insurance for your spouse, significant other, whatever, you'd take it, but what if you had to now all of a sudden pay? To try to, just to kind of see how many would say, nah, screw that.
Okay.
It'd be nice to know, and then I think that would help us make a decision.
But you were saying that everyone comes here for a while, gets trained and leaves because they're offering them a better package.
Yeah.
Are the other municipalities paying 100% for their employees?
No, they're breaking it down to 80-20,
Okay,
85-15.
Yeah.
Okay.
So their whole insurance plan is 80-20. In other words,
Right.
if you take, you know, whether you take just on the employee, it's 80-20, or whether they took a family plan, it's 80-20. 80-20 across the board.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Kennebunkport,
accustomed to.
we just lost one to Kennebunk, what was that, 83 something? It was 83-17, wasn't it?
I'm not sure what Kennebunk is, they could be somewhere in that neighborhood,
Yeah.
yeah. They could be similar to what the school is doing.
Yeah.
And again, it depends on,
So really what you want from me is that, look at what it would cost if employees were gonna shift to paying the 80-20 instead of 100% for the employee. So they would have to make a commitment to pay that. You want me to look at higher deductible cost to see if the premium would come down, and what we're gonna do with how we're gonna manage the extra deductible. And you also want me to look at various percentages. Instead of 80-20, maybe something a little bit lower. You said 75-25, I can look at that one too. Or something along those. I can have those ready for you to look at.
On the single individuals, I don't know how many there are within that group of 10, but that's a huge pay cut. You can go to 80-20.
Yes.
but it may allow them to, depending on their spouse.
No, I'm talking about the single.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
single,
we're
right,
not
right.
proposing it for a single.
No, single you said the same.
The single would stay, we pay 100%. If they switch to a family,
I thought you had that.
then they would have to pay the other
Yeah.
20%.
Higher.
I think we offer those as options to
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let me ask some more inquiries of our employees and see how many would be willing to pick it up if they gotta pay 80-20 for full family coverage. and see
Emily
what
will.
it is.
I'll speak for Emily, Emily will.
That's one brokerage.
Yeah.
You're not voting on this.
She's got a liability she's gotta take care of.
We're gonna have to up Selectmen
Yeah.
insurance.
What insurance?
Cover
Let's
funeral
just stop.
costs.
What insurance? Yeah, what insurance?
I knew some municipalities that do cover health insurance for elected officials.
Really?
Yeah. You can't believe the fight that's gone on with the county level for by the commissioners.
Oh, really?
That subject over the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's all I had, so I guess we're not gonna do anything with that at this particular point. I'll provide more information and you guys can make it the decision.
Last thing,
I would like to make one more comment, and,
Other business and adjournment.
Yeah.
I know which one you wanna jump onto.
Yeah.
that, I think 80-20 is gonna turn out to be where we end up. We can look at these other numbers, but I think you'll find people are pretty well aware of what goes on in surrounding communities, and, I think we have to look forward to being competitive in acquiring people. And
you know, historically, we don't have a whole lot of turnover.
I know.
I mean, we've got some fairly faithful and dedicated employees, I mean, I don't.
No, your argument is on solid ground.
Yeah.
The problem that we have, and that I think we're gonna come up against, even with my tenure here, will be that we're gonna have folks that are getting close to retirement age.
Yeah.
And once they leave, how are we gonna fill those? That's what I'm really, I think the employees we have now, are gonna stay regardless. But moving forward, that's where I'm worried.
We could have the potential for a lot leaving at the same time though, right? Isn't there an age, like Wendy and,
I don't think Wendy's close, but, I mean, Roger's close.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't know if he'll leave.
I don't know, I guess since he's salivating.
You know, I think Terry would be around for a while, but,
Yeah.
you know, you got Roger going.
Terry's
First
my
March.
age,
Okay.
58, so
Is that old?
yeah, 58.
You know, Simone is transitioning down.
I represent that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about Wendy and Ian, I think they'll be here a little bit longer, so. Argument's well taken.
Wait, did we do,
Yes.
1402, 1403, 1404?
You must have missed the meeting.
Must not have put the date on, no, I must not have put the
right,
date on.
snowmobile?
Yeah.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
I just didn't carry it over to the new sheet. Seconded.
It looks like we're gonna need that one more meeting, yeah. When do you wanna hold it? I think at that point,
Let me put it into my phone right now so I don't miss it.
I think at that point, we can make formal votes on certain budget items. I will put together a draft warrant, so we can work off the warrant.
Can we do next week, the sixth, just a week from tonight?
Yeah, we can do it the sixth.
Does that give you enough time to do the spreadsheet?
I think so.
Enough time to get the insurance stuff?
I think so. If I'm finding I'm running late, I will let you guys know, but why don't we schedule it for then? I'd like to get it wrapped up myself.
Yeah, so we can get on building stuff.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of people want us to get there.
Person company food.
Yeah, I stopped at Keith's office, I got, I went, there's no building there yet, what are you doing?
So we'll go on the sixth, 7 o'clock right here.
So we're gonna make a motion.
They did,
Already
you
done.
missed
They
it.
did, I seconded.
I'll second it.
All those in favor of adjournment for this evening? The rest of you can stay here. Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They're getting home early, what doesn't know, don't know what to do. I'll be like, yeah, like, we'll have another hearing.
So your husband cooked dinner?
Never.
All ready for you? Never.